The WNBPA said that they want 33% of total revenue, and they have made it very clear since beginning that they are after the revenue split. They have not been moved by the massive salary increase that the WNBA has offered. Like we've talked about before, the max salary would be well over $1 million, with the minimum salary being around $200,000. And just for reference, $220,000 was the max salary during the last WNBA season. Caitlin Clark getting double teamed even at Team USA minicamp. Aaliyah Boston, top of the key three-pointer. I love that. Chelsea Gray to Veronica Burton. Back to Chelsea Gray. Is that an and 1-3? Angel, don't foul the jump shooter.
The WNBA is standing on the edge of the biggest financial opportunity in the history of women's sports. And there's a very real chance they might completely blow it. And I'm not talking about a minor setback or a temporary hiccup. I'm talking about a catastrophic misstep that could undo years of progress and send the league right back into survival mode. While fans are celebrating Caitlin Clark, sold-out arenas, and record-breaking viewership numbers, a much uglier battle is happening behind closed doors, one that could derail everything. Welcome back to the channel, because today we're not here for feel-good highlights. We're here to talk reality. And what's happening with the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement negotiations should concern everyone who cares about the future of this league. The WNBA Players Association has rejected another proposed deal. And here's the headline number that's causing all the tension. The players are demanding 33% of total league revenue, while the league is offering closer to 12%. That's not a small gap, that's a canyon. Before you immediately pick a side, it's important to understand why this situation is far more complicated and far more dangerous than it looks on the surface. Here's the part that rarely gets talked about. The WNBA does not control all of its own revenue. Unlike the NBA, which owns and manages essentially 100% of its financial ecosystem, the WNBA only directly controls around 40% of its revenue streams. That means the players are negotiating revenue sharing with a league that doesn't even fully own the money being discussed. It's like trying to divide profits from a business when most of the cash flow is controlled by someone else. Now here's where things get even more intense. The league has already proposed a dramatic salary overhaul. The maximum salary would jump from roughly $220,000 to over $1 million, and the minimum salary would rise to around $200,000. That's not a raise, that's a complete restructuring of the pay scale. Players who were max players just a season ago would now be earning minimum level money under the new system. That's historic. But the Players Association has made it clear, salary increases alone aren't enough. They want revenue sharing. And in theory, that makes sense. Revenue sharing sounds fair. It sounds progressive. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. This surge in popularity is extremely recent. The WNBA has had 2 seasons of major growth. Not a decade. Not 5 years. From a business perspective, asking owners to lock in a 33% revenue split based on 2 strong seasons is a massive gamble. Owners are asking a very simple question. What happens if this momentum slows down? What if ratings dip? What if expansion teams struggle? What if the Caitlin Clark effect levels off? That's not greed, that's basic risk assessment. And then there's expansion. The Players Association wants mandatory 12-player rosters plus 2 developmental spots, 14 players per team. That means more salaries, more benefits, more travel costs, more healthcare obligations. That starts to look a lot like the NBA's G League system. But here's the issue. The WNBA doesn't currently have the infrastructure to support that kind of expansion smoothly. Last season alone showed how fragile the system still is. We saw teams scrambling to sign hardship contracts because injuries piled up faster than rosters could handle them. Remember when Erica McDonald signed with the Indiana Fever and fans assumed she'd stick around, only for her to be released due to contract limitations? That kind of confusion shouldn't exist in a fully stable professional league. The rules are so complex and restrictive that even teams struggle to understand who they're allowed to keep. Now the Players Association wants developmental leagues, 2-way contracts, and short-term deals, essentially importing the NBA's entire structure into the WNBA. And to be clear, those are good ideas. Long-term, they're necessary ideas. But they are also extremely expensive. You can't simultaneously demand a massive revenue share and expect the league to absorb millions in new operating costs overnight. The numbers simply don't add up. Caitlin Clark herself addressed this reality during her Team USA interview. She made it clear that compromise will be necessary. Both sides have to give something up to move forward. And she's right, because the stakes here couldn't be higher. The CBA extension deadline is approaching fast, early January. Expansion drafts need to happen. Free agency needs to open. Dozens of players are sitting in limbo, waiting to sign contracts. And according to multiple reports, including The Athletic, the two sides are still nowhere close to an agreement. Not slightly apart, miles apart. That raises a terrifying possibility. The 2026 WNBA season could be delayed or even canceled entirely. If that happens, the damage would be enormous. All the momentum from the last 2 years would vanish instantly. Casual fans who just discovered the league because of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Bueckers wouldn't wait around. They'd move on. Sponsors would hesitate. Expansion investors might rethink their commitments. Moments like this don't come with second chances. The Players Association is also pushing to expand the season to 48 games, eventually reaching 50 games once the league hits 18 teams. Meanwhile, the league wants to start the season earlier, possibly in April. But that raises another issue. How do you start the season while the NCAA tournament is still ongoing? How do you draft rookies who are still competing in college? This is what happens when growth accelerates faster than planning. The WNBA has always operated in a tight summer window. That avoids competition with the NBA and NFL, but it also leads to brutal scheduling, back-to-back games, fatigue, and injuries. Extending the season into the fall means competing directly with the NFL, and in the United States, that's a losing battle. Football dominates everything. Something has to change. Players can't keep spending their off-seasons overseas just to make a living. But structural changes like longer seasons and expanded rosters take years to implement, not rush demands in a tense CBA negotiation. Here's the uncomfortable reality the Players Association has to reckon with. The WNBA does not have decades of sustained success to lean on. This isn't the NBA negotiating from a position of generational dominance. For most of its existence, the WNBA has struggled to survive. These last 2 seasons are the exception, not the rule. That's what makes this situation so frustrating. Both sides have legitimate arguments. Players have been underpaid for years. Owners have poured money into a league that lost money for decades. But neither side seems willing to blink, and every day this drags on damages the league's credibility. The timing couldn't be worse. Just as the WNBA finally breaks through to mainstream sports audiences, just as arenas are filling and media coverage explodes, the league risks sabotaging itself. The players have more leverage than ever, but they may be overplaying it. Sports fans are fickle. If there's no season, fans won't wait patiently. They'll find something else to watch. And the owners aren't blameless either. You finally have the most marketable star women's basketball has ever seen. You finally have sold-out crowds and national attention. And you're willing to risk it all over a revenue percentage gap. That's not discipline, that's ego. While all this drama unfolds, Team USA's training camp just wrapped up, and the scrimmage footage reminded everyone what really matters. The basketball itself was elite. Young stars and veterans going head-to-head. Kelsey Plum pushing the pace. Chelsea Gray orchestrating the offense. Caitlin Clark getting double-teamed even in practice. Aaliyah Boston showing her full skill set. Paige Bueckers running the offense with confidence. Angel Reese dominating the glass. This is the product fans want. Not lockout threats. Not press releases. Just basketball. That's why this CBA standoff is so painful to watch. The talent is there. The interest is there. The opportunity is there. So where does this leave the WNBA right now? At a crossroads, plain and simple. The kind of moment leagues don't get twice. On one side, you have the greatest wave of attention women's professional basketball has ever seen. On the other, you have a high-stakes standoff that could bring everything to a grinding halt if cooler heads don't prevail soon. The deadline is no longer some distant concept, it's right there. Early January is approaching fast, and with it comes massive uncertainty. Free agency can't properly begin. Expansion drafts can't move forward. Rookies don't know when, or they'll be stepping into a professional season. Veterans don't know whether they should be training for competition or bracing for a shutdown. That kind of instability doesn't just affect contracts. It affects preparation, careers, and long-term confidence in the league itself. Here's the harsh truth both sides need to accept. This is not a zero-sum game. If the players push too hard and force a delay or cancellation, they lose leverage instantly. Public opinion shifts fast. Fans who just discovered the WNBA through Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Buchers aren't emotionally invested enough to ride out a lockout. They'll move on to other sports, other storylines, other leagues. Momentum doesn't pause, it disappears. At the same time, owners can't pretend this is business as usual. You finally have sold-out arenas. You finally have national media talking about WNBA games the same way they talk about NBA matchups. You finally have sponsors, networks, and cities lining up to invest. To risk all of that over rigid negotiating positions would be short-sighted at best and reckless at worst. Protecting every dollar today could cost far more tomorrow. The smartest path forward isn't complicated, it's strategic. Lock in the massive salary increases now. Guarantee players real financial security immediately. Then build in a structured plan to revisit revenue sharing once the league proves that this growth isn't just a flash in the pan. 2 or 3 more seasons of sustained attendance, ratings, and sponsorship growth changes everything. That's when revenue sharing discussions make long-term sense. Because make no mistake, if the 2026 season is lost or delayed, the damage will go far beyond 1 year. Expansion plans could collapse. Media partners could rethink their commitments. Corporate sponsors could pull back. And worst of all, the narrative shifts from "the WNBA is finally here" to "the WNBA couldn't get out of its own way." That's a storyline the league may never fully recover from. Players lose prime years of their careers, years that can't be replaced. Owners lose trust and credibility. Fans lose faith. And the league loses the single most powerful thing it has right now: belief. Belief that this time is different. Belief that women's basketball has finally broken through for good. Momentum in sports is fragile. It takes years to build and moments to destroy. Right now, it feels like both sides are staring each other down, playing a dangerous game of chicken with the future of women's professional basketball. The hope is that leadership, compromise, and long-term vision win out. Because if they don't, the consequences won't last 1 season. They could set the WNBA back an entire decade. And that would be the biggest loss of all.